Hi, I'm here again today at the Collective Core Yard. Another day, another discovery, and this time I'm going to talk to you about our San Antonio project, which sits on the eastern side of the Cauca River. So this map here really highlights this 2.5 kilometer gold and copper corridor that we're exploring, and this is really porphyry country. And what we're looking for is we're on the hunt for a new porphyry. Historical work at Dollar found one, but the grade wasn't good enough. We've recently done work on Pound, and we found a hydrothermal breccia with over 700 meters running 0.4 to 0.5 grams per ton. But the end of some of these holes, Sac 6 and Sac 8, hit quartz, chalcopyrite, porphyry mineralization with gold. So what we're really looking for is to find the porphyry source, because that mineralization was in Metagabbro. Recently drilled this new hole to the northwest in this area called Sac 11, and you'll see that we hit sericite related 406 meters at 0.35 grams per ton gold equivalent from 128 meters down hole. Then the big intercept is 290 meters at 0.8, which is in Metagabbro, all in Metagabbro, but all within porphyry style overprinting quartz and chalcopyrite veins. But the important point is we have intervals in that hole, 40.9 at over a gram gold. We're finding copper mineralization. We haven't found the porphyry yet, but we know that the porphyry mineralization is occurring overprinting and inside the country rocks. So now I've moved over to a more detailed plan and section view of the Sac 11 drilling in the Pound target. And you'll see from the plan, Sac 11 goes to the west-northwest in this direction and is hitting much more copper mineralization than we saw in some of the other holes. And so we're vectoring in on this system. I've read you the grades already, but here's an outline of the potential gold and copper porphyry zone. You can see from some of the other drilling we're starting to get high sulfide contents, but look down here. This is the intercept, the significant intercept of over 290 meters with all this copper in. You see that? And that is all occurring inside this Metagabbro, and I'm going to show you some of the rocks related to that. But basically, we're on the hunt now for a gold copper porphyry system, and some of the information we're getting or intersecting in this hole is very encouraging. And I'm going to show you some of the areas of interesting mineralization. You see the chalcopyrite mineralization here in typical quartz porphyry veins overprinting the Metagabbro. So this material is not part of the Metagabbro, this has come into the Metagabbro. This is interesting. You see one of the porphyry mineralized finger dikes here coming in there. So you can see this is a porphyry related system, and we look like we're somewhere in the tip of it or the vicinity of it. And then you can see some of the more spectacular copper mineralization in there. You see how lovely that looks. That's all chalcopyrite, okay? And one of the other things I'd like to point out here is you see the brown potassic alteration that's typical of a porphyry system. So all this has superimposed itself on the Metagabbro host rock. And I'm going to walk down here and look at some more core. So you'll see me going down. There's some interesting copper mineralization in all this core. I haven't got time to show you it all. So it's really more of the same, but I think it is worth showing you. We got vein sets, porphyry vein sets going in different directions. Some of them are clipped by the whole downhole, some of them are orthogonal to those, all associated with chalcopyrite. And this is classic porphyry style mineralization. Again, some of the veins are cutting across at different angles. You can see a nice chalcopyrite vein in there. You can see the potassic alteration. You know, we're quite lucky here. This is really a discovery of a new system, and there you can see the chalcopyrite mineralization breaking up the Metagabbro and forming inside this small little brecciated area there due to fluid overpressure. So let's go down the core. I wanted to show you one last example of this in this core here. So here you can see again, beautiful chalcopyrite mineralization, quartz veins, potassic alteration, and then there's another one, but this one's orthogonal, that's going in a different direction to the other one, all associated with chalcopyrite. So you've got two vein sets which are pretty much orthogonal to each other, classic of a porphyry system, lots of chalcopyrite, and you've got good potassic alteration.
Okay, I'm going to pick up from David. I'm going to show you some rocks and details and talk about how this porphyry system might have formed. So we're really going to be talking about drill core in the deeper part of Sac 11 here. As David pointed out, the early potassic alteration is associated with the flooding of quartz veins, and here's a series of samples down here on the table. Many of them are thin, narrow sheeted veins. Others get kind of thicker. Many of them are polygenic, many different things. So you see chalcopyrite, pyrite, and molybdenite in there. And we know that there's a stockwork system because here we have two veins that are being cut off. It looks oblique, but when you flip it over, it has the standard, nearly orthogonal vein geometry typical of porphyry copper deposits. And the last thing you see is, of course, the carbonate base metal veins, which are everywhere, but they're not nearly as big and not nearly as prolific as over at Apollo. But what's driving this is a series of porphyry dikes. Here's a couple examples here with different phenocryst to ground mass ratio, with sheeted quartz veins, also with sulfide-only chalcopyrite pyrite veins that intrude up through the potassic alteration, seem to be associated with the copper. There's some interesting other textures in here. There's an area that's rich in gypsum now, but this is probably hydrated anhydrite. And this has a slushy texture, typical of the tippy tips of porphyry intrusions. And you can see in here that the quartz-eye phenocrysts, which are abundant in the porphyry. So this was sitting up over the top, and down underneath it is another dike, and probably more grade. But at the very bottom of the drill hole, down here, there's a hole of crystalline rock that's quartz phenocryst. And this probably, and potentially, and this is the idea we're working on right now, represents the cupola, the top of the magma chamber, from which all the porphyry dikes were sourced and which brought the copper and the gold up into the Pound project. Thank you.